right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Welcome to the latest message from the Minista. This week's message from the Minista is self-acceptance is the key. Self-acceptance is the key. We're going to be reading the definitions from the American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition of self and acceptance. And we're also going to be reading just from the Gospel of Hip Hop, and also have an excerpt that we're going to read, something that we post up when we do our Temple of Hip Hop live in-person meetings. It's like this board that we put up, and just something to read and remind ourselves that self-acceptance is the key to hip hop. But I want to expand on that a little bit too, because hip hop is our lifestyle. So self-acceptance is the key to self-acceptance is the key to our lifestyle. Self-acceptance is the key to life itself. Self-acceptance is the key to God, and self-acceptance is the key to growth. And well, before we even get into it all, because I'm all ready to go, I want to welcome you all here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank all of you. Thank that group back there. Thank you for being here. You know, across all time and space, no matter where we are all here together in this moment, in this time, in this space, in spirit. And let's start with that. Let's start with spirit, because we're talking about self-acceptance, right? And there's a saying that's gone around for many years, and you know, I've heard it from different sources. So its origin, you know, there's a debate on the origin of it, but it says something like this. It's that we are not humans having a spiritual experience. We are spirits having a human experience. And so when I welcome you all here in spirit, we're actually having a human experience here together with one another through the Spirit, because we are spirit first. And Minister G. Simone, acronologist G. Simone, her acronym for spirit is something pressing inside, revealing inner truth. Something pressing inside, revealing inner truth. Spirit. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful acronym for what spirit is. Because each of us, our true self is inside of us. And it's pushing us forward. It's like this urging forward. It's this energy forward. It's a feeling. It's an emotion. It's a pushing forward. It's a pressing forward from inside of us. And from inside of our heart, inside of our soul, inside of our true being and our true essence and our true nature. Remember, this body, this thing, you know, this thing that you're looking at that we call Zin Uru, this is just a temporary construct. This wasn't meant to live forever. All this matter will transform and change into some other form of matter. And at one time, just like all of us, we will eventually leave this body that we are here renting, being gifted to by earth, and return back into our original state of being, our spirit being. And in that real persona, that real person, that real spirit who we are inside, we have this some knowing that's beyond our knowledge, that's beyond our experience. It's a knowing inside that pushes us and strives us and pushes us towards those things of spirit, towards those things of God, towards those events that remind us of God, and towards those events that remind us of spirit. And so often the world, the earth, you know, the earth is different than the world now. The earth, which is this construct of ego, which is this construct of control, which is this construct of the colonizer and the thief. This world around us, it doesn't want us to accept who we actually are. In fact, its whole system is designed on self-denial as opposed to self-acceptance. And what do I mean by that? Well, in a natural state of being, let's look at nature itself. Do birds pay rent? Do wild animals have to pay rent wherever they are? No, they don't. But this world has got this thing. Do animals, they pay taxes? But saying we're not animals, yeah, but you know, this body, this is an animal body, whether you want to admit it or like it or not. This is a primate body. And I accept that. except that we are a form of like a primate. We're like a monkey, The monkey speaks his mind, that old Rasta poem. Two monkeys sitting under a coconut tree discussing things as they ought to be. Says one to the other too, it's about the monkey saying, we can't believe that man, that worthless bum, would think that he came from our noble race, But walking around here, we've got this flesh and this bone, and we're in denial of the fact that we actually have an animalistic nature. And what is that animalistic nature that we're in denial of? Because we want to be something more, because we know we're something more? Well, yeah, we're different. We're different than the other animals. It's clear. Our consciousness is different. Our abilities are different. Our thinking is different. What we see, what we do, how we communicate, what we can build, that's all different. But we are actually, how different is it? What does an ant colony build? An ant colony builds its own ant colony. A bee builds its own hive. A bird builds its own nest. Nature itself builds homes like wind tunnels and burrows. And, some animals will dig into a burrow, but they'll find a natural hole at the base of a tree, and they'll dig it out and create a family, for their home, like a squirrel. Or a fish will find like a little cave and swim inside that cave and sleep at night. So nature itself creates these homes for us, these dwelling places for us, and nature itself actually creates those, like a bird creates its own bird nest. So when we create a home, how different is that than a bird? Isn't this a lot like a bird nest here all around us? It's a wood structure. It's made of mud. They call it plaster now. But we can really build nice earth homes out of earth itself. We can put the mud and the straw together and stomp it up and form homes and domes and really make a lot out of nature without having to manufacture a lot of things. But somewhere along the line, something convinced us that we are no longer a part of nature, and I believe that that's where we started living in self-denial. Because our natural state looks to the stars and tells stories. Praise to this being of great magnitude, this spirit of great magnitude that is beyond any description. We tell stories, we sing songs, we make love, we produce generation after generation. We learn to grow crops. This is all part of our natural abilities that we have. But somewhere along the line, this group of people says, hey, we know better than that group of people. And instead of leaving that group of people alone over there, we're going to make that group of people live like we live. And thus the colonization began. The forced servitude of one into another in denial of their nature. Now, we as spirit beings, we are supernatural beings. And our supernatural abilities are just those that are above nature. Like, nature can be a very violent place, so our supernatural ability kicks in, and we say, we don't need to be violent. I'll be violent if I have to in self-defense, but I'm not going to go and attack anybody for no reason just to take their resources. Nature does that. The mighty king of the jungle, the lion, the male lion, very seldom catches his own food. He just goes around and takes it from what the hyenas have caught, what the female lions have caught, They go around and that's how they do it. They sit around most of the day. They don't even go get their own food. They go and they grab somebody else's food. Now, in our living, we call that the government. The government goes and steals everybody's food, taxes everybody's work, and whatever they're doing, the government's taxing and taking, and then making a mess out of everything, but then setting themselves up as some kind of false lord, false god, and false master. And then we're sitting here running around, watching their television, listening to their news, going to their schools, and we're being taught not to accept who we actually are, while they're stealing our resources of who we actually are. Imagine that. Let's use hip-hop as an example. Let's use hip-hop music as an example in the way that mainstream. Now you go back into the 70s, back into the Cool Herc era and the Coal Crush and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and Chief Rocker Busy Bee. And you go back into the original era of hip hop, where it all started, the culture. You go back to the Bronx and the way that they were doing it on their own before the rap music industry was created, before Rapper's Delight. That was pure self-acceptance. Because you have this community of artists and kids at that time getting together, loving and accepting themselves and creating art. They accepted where they were at, who they were at, and accepted also that they wanted to do better and be better than the environment was telling them that they could be. And so they self-created themselves into what we know as the icons, the pioneers, the forefathers, and the foremothers of hip-hop culture. What a beautiful way to display pure self-acceptance. But then the rap music industry came along. They said, no, you can't do it like that no more. We don't need everybody having their own style and their own wild style. We need to start fitting everybody into a little prepackaged box that we can sell. And thus hip-hop became colonized. Well, rap music became colonized. And hip-hoppers started wanting to join in on the mainstream, which was stealing from hip-hop. And that creates this distortion in the morphogenetic field, to get metaphysical with us. Because what happens is people begin growing up and not accepting their nature, their natural abilities, their natural longings, their natural yearnings, thus not accepting themselves. And when we don't accept ourselves, when we try and fit into somebody else's mold, we are nothing more than a slave. And I know I spent a long time in that way, I grew up in a church, and I grew up with this urging inside of God, no matter where I was hearing God, whether it was the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, Buddhism, whatever it was, New Thought, whatever it was, where I was hearing this voice of God, I was having this thing push and urge me towards that. I also had this other world around me saying, yo, you got to get a job, you got to start a family, you got to have a car bill, you got to pay insurance, you've got to have a mortgage, or you've got to rent, you've got to go to college, or if you don't got to go to college, you've got to become a tradesman. And, in a certain way, survival depends on those things. So not discounting that, or not discounting that world. But as I started getting older and getting out on my own and exploring the world, it seemed like all of a sudden I was living two lives at the same time. One was the natural being wanting to, live and experience life, and the other was this unnatural being telling me that I had to conform. I had to live in denial of my natural person. And it pains me to say, at one point in my life, I chose to deny my true existence as who I am, and I conformed to society's standards, and it didn't happen overnight. It was something that just gradually happened, and I think most of us can relate to this on some level. I woke up one day, and I had a mortgage, and I had children, and I had a job I hated, and I had been doing it for, 12 years, and I mean, it was tough like that, but it was real like that. And each and every day, there was a part of me that was hoping that would be the day that I got to express myself and express my true nature and express that, something pressing inside, revealing inner truth. Where would I get this chance to express forward who I truly am instead of depressing myself? Remember, the opposite of expression is depression. So if anyone's suffering from depression, learn to express yourself. That's self-acceptance right there. Being able, the ability to express oneself, that is self-acceptance. And so we're born into this world, into this system, into this thing that doesn't really match who our spirit is, and the spirit that's pressing inside, revealing its truth. And so we're taught from an early age not to accept who we actually are, not to accept our true nature, not to accept the wonders of the world, the wonders of the garden that God created for us to live and experience and contemplate and rest from our other life, or rest from our eternal being. And come here to play and have fun and make music and commune. The original intentions of the earth to begin with. That's written in our DNA. That's written in our codes. That's written in our water codes. That's written in our spirit. That's written in our heart. That's written in our soul by the hand of God, the Creator. And so we're born into this system that is in denial of everything natural, that doesn't accept itself because they can't accept themselves as they are. They have to try and convince us to accept ourselves as something we are not. So instead of the early hip-hop was being about peace, love, unity, and having fun, they started convincing whole generations of young people coming up through the rap music program on television now. They started convincing them, no, it's about self-indulgence. It's about partying all the time. It's not about the future. It's about the now. It's about hoes and money and cars and material things. And, the original hip hop, they had nice cars. They was about the party. They was about the life. But they were about community. The common unity between you and I, between one another. And so when the rap music came along and started, integrating whole generations of youth and say, no, we don't want what that original hip hop is. We are the experts on rap music. Now we are the experts on hip hop culture. I think it was the Source magazine that called itself the Bible of hip hop culture. What a fallacy. What a lie. What a lie that is. And that's why the Source magazine no longer exists. And remember, there was a time when the Source magazine was the quote unquote authority, and if they said something, it was some kind of gospel. But then we come and find out that the Source magazine never was shit, it will never be shit, and that they never meant shit. Now, I got copies of Source magazines. It's actually a good tool where you can go back and see what early rappers were saying, early MCs were saying, But see, Source magazine decided that they were the authority on hip-hop culture, not hip-hop culture itself, and they started lying and manipulating and colonizing hip-hop. And they pushed it away from community, which was the original intention of hip-hop. They pushed it away from community and brought it under corporation. And see, what we really got to realize that it's either corporate or community. That's it. It's hip-hop is community. Rap is corporate. And when we think about community, I was thinking this week, why are so many relationships, why are relationships so hard for people to maintain, right? Why are relationships so hard to maintain? I was thinking about this week, and I was thinking, well, the number one reason, and probably the only reason that relationships are hard to maintain is because there's no community. No natural, organic community, especially hip-hop community. And I'm not talking about a community where you get together once a week and do a jam. I'm not talking about that community. I'm talking about a community of where we live next to one another, where we live on the same blocks, or we live on the same streets, or in the same tribe, or the same camp, and we live together. And we work together, and we build together, and we create together, and we grow food together, and we commune with one another. Now, and the reason I'm saying that is because, between man and woman, a man and a woman, they get together. And in this new age that we're in right now, where there's very little community, they call it online community, that's really not a thing. Virtual reality isn't reality itself, it's a fallacy. So they talk about community in these loose terms, but they've really gotten away from the meaning of what community actually is. And self-acceptance being the key to, the key to life, the key to community, the key to hip hop. When we were in community, the community would teach us self-acceptance because we accepted one another for who we were. So the problems that plague modern society didn't plague the community. If a man and woman are isolated, and what a woman, they say scientifically, I think speaks like 3 times the amount of words a man speaks in one day. And a man and a woman are in a situation where they've only really got one another to communicate with. It creates an off balance because the man isn't built to hear 3 times as many words as he speaks. And the woman isn't built to speak to somebody who can only understand 1/3 of what she's saying. A woman needs to have other women around that she can speak to and commune with, and a man needs to have other men around that he can commune with and speak with. And not just of the same age, but of all ages, from children to adults. You know the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. And so when the colonizer way back in the day started pulling us away from community and started pulling us out of community, to the point where we're so isolated now, we live in this digital prison almost. No wonder these relationships are failing. It's not because the two aren't in love or aren't trying different techniques. It's because they don't have other people around to help them and support them, and they're not there to help and support other people, the give and the receiving of what actual community is, communing with one another. And that disparity of not having a community around us to help raise us as children, aunts and uncles and cousins and a large community, that creates this lack of actual self-acceptance. And then we go into somewhere like, I grew up in a Baptist church, and it was called a community church. But nobody there saw themselves like my own personal community, like what we would have known in the tribe. Because this was a revolving door of people coming in and out and going and coming with their own ideals and their own laws and their own rituals that they've taken from the world, and they're bringing it into the community, as opposed to the community that's creating its own laws, its own rituals, its own prayer, its own music. And so what would happen is anytime I would express myself for who I am, I was told right away, no, that's not who you are. What do you mean? I just had this vision in God the other night, and this is what God's saying to me. No, God doesn't speak to you. You're a 9-year-old, you're a 10-year-old, you're an 11-year-old. Sit down, know your place. But wait, but God is speaking. No, God is not speaking to you. And you hear that from multiple adults, and all of a sudden your brain becomes infringed. The bifringed mind all of a sudden starts thinking, I know that God is talking to me. I can feel it in my heart. I know God wants to communicate, but now I'm being told that God doesn't communicate to me. God only communicates through a book. God only communicates through this book and through that man who holds this book because he has a degree from that Bible university over there. And so you hear this for your life, and all of a sudden, I started becoming like one minute I'm trying to, even in my thinking process, now I'm hearing God. Oh, you can't hear God because the Bible guy told you can't hear God. But wait, when I read the Bible, Jesus the Christ himself is saying that I can go to God anytime I want through the Holy Spirit. Oh yeah, but what you don't know is blah, 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 and all these rules and regulations and stipulations and dogma and their own BS that they're dealing with, all that gets pushed on it. And so all of a sudden what I think is a community is telling me not to be my natural self, don't accept who you really are. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm living that life half in and half out. I was never good at that life. I could never really participate in that world, which is, I'm sure, really how y'all we're going to relate to this message from the Minista, because most of us, all of us, have tried at one time or another to fit into a world that we're not part of. And we have to deny ourselves, self-denial, to think that we're going to be accepted by a world that doesn't even accept us as we actually are and who we really are. I tell you, that is no way to live. That is no way to live. So when we get into self-acceptance now, we say, wait a minute, as I came to the temple of hip-hop and I started saying, hearing the teacher would say over and over, do you have the courage to be the real you? Yes, I have the courage to be the real me, teacher. And I'm asking you all that question too. Do you have the courage to be the real you? And it's easy to say yes, but then to be the real you, not just to say, yes, I have the courage to be the real me, but I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing. No, do you really have the courage to be the real you? Because it actually takes courage. You will be tested on the validity of the real you. You will have to go through some things to find out if you really are who you say you are. And what a joy that is, because when you overcome and when you show, yes, I am who I say I am that I am who I say I am. All of a sudden, like, your self-acceptance builds the confidence, it builds a faith, and all of a sudden, your natural being comes out, and your natural being is almost in resistance to the ways of the world. It is in resistance. It actually contradicts the world. And therefore, the world is going to try at times to convince you through family, through friends, through institutions, through television, through media, through the internet. That world is going to try and convince you to stop being your organic self and become the GMO, the genetically modified version that they are pushing on you. And where does that leave you? That leaves you, the individual, not you personally, but that leaves the individual sad, depressed, lonely, confused, by friends, suicidal, because they've given up who they are for somebody else's idea of who they should be. There's only one you, and only you can be you. And what a gift that is. There's only one sound that makes you, you. Why are you, you? Why do you do what you do? What is it that's pressing inside of you that's wanting to reveal its truth? And why are you not expressing that truth? What is keeping you and holding you back from that truth? Who is keeping you from holding back that truth? And the obvious answer always at the end of the day is ourselves. Because ourselves are the only ones who are in denial of who we actually are. We've accepted somebody, we've accepted the lies, the manipulation, the coercion, the extortion. People have accepted that all the time. But let me tell you, when you make a stand on who you really are and what the Spirit is pressing inside of you, those closest to you will live in denial of that at times. They may say, you are not that. You are not who you say you are. Yes, I am. I am. So this is something to be bold with. This isn't something to be weak with. This isn't something to be timid with. This is something to be patient with, to perform listening with, to perform study with, to perform patience with, to perform love with. This is what this actually takes. And, you know, another part of this is that in the world, before we get to our definitions here, one other thing that I wanted to point out, and I'd like to bring it up later if, you know, God willing. You know, this new age world that we live in, where there's all of these self-help seminars, all this self-help that's always about, all of this, you know, improve yourself, be your best self now, you know, be the ultimate you now, be who you always wanted to be now, attract this into your life now, master this law here, all of this new age thing, this self-help, it's $1 billion industry, the self-help industry. It's really built on people's lack of self-acceptance. Because we feel like, oh, I don't like who I am, so I want to improve myself. Not I love myself, so I want to improve myself, which is where the truth comes in. I love myself, I accept who I am, and I want to get a little better in this arena of life. I mean, that's where it really should come from, but how much of it now is that, I'm not manifesting an abundance consciousness, and I don't have all the car I want and the house I want, and I don't have the Om Shanti rugs and all the singing bowls and all the crystals and everything that I want. I must not be spiritual enough to have that, so let me go pay somebody, or let me go get this book, and let me go do this self-help, because, it comes from a lack of self-acceptance at that point. And that's why self-acceptance is the actual key to spiritual freedom. Because what is this world doing when you go to Barnes & Noble? Are they teaching you love and accept yourself, who you are and where you are and why you are and where you're at? It's okay to be who you are and where you're at right now. If you can accept that, you can grow from there. They don't teach that because that doesn't pay the money. That don't pay the bills, And I was thinking one time, somebody was like, yo, we got this woman coming in, right? She's given this, I was living at this home, and this woman was coming in, this empowered woman was coming in. And empowered men, they do the same thing. But this empowered woman is coming in, and she's gonna teach us all about abundance consciousness and how to get our money right and be where we want to be, financial independence. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. And they're like, yeah, it's $500 for the 3-day, it's 3 nights of this weekend. It's $500. I was like, well, I ain't got $500. Like, yeah, but you probably should get that $500 because it's an investment into yourself and an investment into your future and an investment into this, that. And I was like, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. If I have $500, why I need to go to if I know how to get $500, why do you need to go to somebody to teach me how to get $500? It don't make sense to me, you know. And so I said no. I turned it down. And then apparently the turnout wasn't that great. So I was told I could come and just to sit in. You know, and so I went the first night, and I sat in on the first night, and I saw the car this woman's driving, and I had a nicer car than she did, and I had a beat up old used car, and I looked at the way she was dressed, and I was like, she ain't looking really that sharp, and I started hearing her talk about money. I'm like, she don't know what she's talking about. But she's getting paid to teach people how to make money when she's broke. I don't understand that. I didn't understand that concept, so I didn't even go to the next 2 nights, you know. I heard her, but I had already hung out with you know, G. Simone and the teacher and seen, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars of tour money, you know, over the years, you know, just and what the mentality takes and how to do the hustle and what street entrepreneurialism is and all of that. I was watching that, and I was living that. I was doing landscape jobs. I was working on you know, I was working for you know, growing my own herb and selling that and working in the industry there and stuff. So like I had money. But you know, I'd seen how money works and everything she's teaching. I'm like, that's not how money works. That's not even, you go read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's not how money works. Who is she trying to fool here? But it opened up my sight now because I started looking at the other people who are teaching like all this spiritual mastery for $1,200 for this week, or you know, $2,500 for this week, or $800,000 for this week, $8,000 for a week to go to some spiritual retreat. Like, man. You got $8,000, man. Take 2 months off and go somewhere and do something and experience life. You got $3,500. Take a couple months off and go somewhere and do something. Travel somewhere and do something that you've always wanted to do. There's something pressing inside, revealing His truth is wanting to show. Because I'll tell you what, I started going to these festivals and these things like that, and these people are not accepting who they are. And wanting to put up this thing, give me money so I could tell you who you should be or who you could be, even though I'm not being who I say that I am. And am I saying everyone was like that? I can't say everyone was like that. In my experience, though, I saw that all the time. And it was a scam, and it was a rip-off scam. And I was like, I can't participate in that. I won't participate in that. But I'm grateful that God showed me that is out there. So I always knew that I would always give anything I've learned from the teachings of the gospel of hip-hop, the temple of hip-hop, through my own spiritual studies, give it out for free. If somebody ever wants to donate, feel free to donate to me. Yo, I like I said, these videos take 8 hours a week. But I do it for free because this is just my spirit pressing inside, revealing its truth. It's coming out. It's wanting to speak itself forward. This is my natural state of being. In the environment that I'm living in, I'm a hip-hopper. I'm a natural human being. Who are you? Are you expressing your true hip-hop nature? Are you accepting who you are? This is something, I'll put it up here on the screen here and take a look at this. This is something that we put up on a display when you walk into a physical temple of hip-hop building or one of our seminars. This is something that we have, and over the years, I've always goes back to this one piece here. Check this out. This is written by our teacher, by the teacher KRS-One. Self-acceptance is the main point to the teaching of hip-hop. See, look at that right there. Self-acceptance is the main point to the teaching of hip-hop. Peace, love, unity and safely having fun is the whole point to hip-hop's existence. And this is what a real hip-hop education is all about. Peace. Not money, but wealth. Not competitiveness, but unity. Not conformity, but self-acceptance. When you are comfortable with yourself, you learn faster and you live in a state of joy caused by a sense of self-contentment. Peace. When you accept yourself as yourself and you know that you become confident in yourself and in your abilities. And this is what created hip-hop. This self-acceptance is so important. Because when we accept ourselves, we accept our shortcomings. We accept those things that we need to grow on. We accept our defeats and we accept our victories. We accept when we're feeling down. We accept when we're feeling up. We accept when we're struggling. We accept when things are happening with grace and ease. We accept when we're tired. We accept when we're energized. We accept when we're pissed off. And we accept when we're in joy. This is the key to hip-hop right here. Self-acceptance, it brings peace. And we learn faster because we're accepting who we are. We're not in denial of who we are, trying to make something that we're in denial in, some other better version of itself, always just mutating and just like the world system wants to do, just like the pharmaceutical industry wants to do. Instead of addressing the real problem, they want to give people pills to mask the real problem. It doesn't work. We've gotten so far away from who we are as natural beings and our natural being that we actually look down upon people who are their natural beings. You know, especially the colonizer, not all of us. I'm not saying those of us who are listening to this, but this is what they're trying to convince us of. That our natural state of being was no good and we needed them to come in and pave roads. We needed them to come in and plunder the resources and tell our parents how to behave and tell us how to behave. And tell our children how to behave and what can go in their body. This is what the New World Order's plan is their plan is depopulate the world and cause a great division and a great calamity amongst man and amongst humanity with one another. It's by design. It's by design. And if you're a spirit being, this is what this message is right here, because if you're a spirit being, you're looking at the world and the news is saying, nah, that's not what you see. You don't see no New World Order. You don't see no medical tyranny going on right now. You don't see that. You don't see a lie. In fact, you're the lie. You're the problem. No, I'm not. You're the problem. You're the lie. The system, that New World Order system, they are the lie. They are the problem, not you. Not us. Can we accept ourselves who we are? And though those around us are saying, you got to get this done to you. You got to do this. You can't say this. You can't speak about this. You can't live like this. No, I am. And I will. And whatever comes after I am and I will, those are the most powerful things you can ever say. Because remember, even if you say, I will not, that is just as powerful a statement as I will. I will live a free life. I will not bow down to your government. I will live the life of a free man. I will not bow down to your tyranny. I will live a life of courage. I will not bow down to fear. I am hip-hop. I am sovereign. I am. This is where self-acceptance comes in, because the more we can accept ourselves, the more our willpower, I will, I am, comes into being and comes into power. I was watching, it was kind of a cheesy movie, but I was wanting to watch a movie earlier this week. I just was like, just needed some downtime, so to speak, and popped on. He was flicking through the movies, and saw this movie, The Green Lantern, right? And I was like, okay, I remember it being kind of corny when it came out, and I was like, oh, let me watch it again, you know, and you know, not one of the best comic book movies, but it wasn't as bad as I thought, because there was a concept in there, a concept in The Green Lantern that was talking about willpower, and this is the thing about the Green Lantern's ring. You know, the Green Lanterns, they wear these power rings that can, you know, they turn in this light energy around them, this green light energy, which is heart-centered, heart chakra energy, right? And they use this willpower, and they use this ring and this willpower, and it can turn, it just makes things appear in their environment. You know, so like, you know, he wants to punch out the bad guy, so he goes like this, and the ring makes this giant fist, and it punches out like 5 guys at the same time, or, you know, he needs to shoot at the guy, so he, you know, uses the ring to create a machine gun, or, you know, I don't know. It's corny like that, the way the movie does it. But the concept there is true, because the willpower through this, you know, through this ring, through this green energy, through this heart chakra energy, this green energy of creation is willpower. Willpower comes from the soul, comes from the center, comes from the heart. We talked about this a few weeks ago on Open Your Heart. So now we have, you know, I was watching The Green Lantern, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what I'm talking about this week, is self-acceptance. He's having to learn, you know, he's going through the hero's quest. The hero's quest is always about self-acceptance, right? Joseph Campbell's, you know, the great Joseph Campbell taught about the hero's quest. And how the hero's quest is always about, you know, like you know, the hero, he doesn't want to accept his abilities. He can't accept his abilities. Why did the universe choose me? Why did the universe, you know, why did God choose me for this? Or why did life choose me for this task? I don't know. I'm unworthy of this task. And they don't accept their higher selves. They don't accept their actual being. And then through the course and as events unfold, they have no choice but to accept who they are. And so in this movie, you know, his willpower is questioned, because he's kind of weak-willed. He's kind of he's got a lot of ability, but he doesn't follow through with it. He quits on a lot of things. He's known as a quitter to most people, but somehow this ring chooses him, this power chooses him. And through the process of the movie, he understands, like, wait a minute, I quit because that was teaching me not to quit. All my quitting in the past has taught me now not to quit, not to be a quitter. And those who are relying on me in my environment are relying on me, you know, my willpower to follow through and to see it through this time. You know, and of course he defeats the ultimate evil. You know, this evil's coming at him, and this evil called parallax is trying to frighten him, and it's fear. Okay, it's fear. So this other being that he's fighting, his enemy is fear, and it embraces its fear as fear and fear. And what I think was great in the movie, his point of self-acceptance, like where he comes into his own in the movie, is he accepted his fear. He accepted that there was a part of him that was afraid. And once he accepted that he was afraid, then he was accepting that he had the willpower to overcome that fear. And that's a great lesson in a movie. Critics can pan and say what they want about the movie, but whoever wrote that was really telling a deep truth about humanity and what it means to be a human and what self-acceptance means. Because when we can love and accept ourselves and we say, yo, I am afraid. Well, I am also courageous. Well, I also have willpower, and I'm not going to allow that fear to overtake me. See, self-acceptance, I've talked about this in the past. When we embrace our wholeness, we embrace who we really are. When we embrace that, we embrace our fear, and then that fear goes into our purifier soul, our Christ within, and that fear that's false evidence appearing real is burnt up in the flame of truth, and we see it for what it really is. But when we try and say, I'm not afraid, even though we are, and we're trying to push that truth outside of us, it's like we start creating this illusion outside of us and giving it more power. By being in denial of it, in this case, in the movie, him being in denial of the fear, he created this fear outside of himself, and this fear then, the collective fear, expressed itself in this great entity called parallax, that was made of pure fear that was threatening to destroy the entire earth. That's where we're at right now, my nobility. That's where we're at right now. They've been doing it little by little, but since 2020, they have been pushing the fear propaganda 24/7, every day of the week, everywhere you go, at every moment they can possibly push it. They've been pushing that fear. And you know what? You know what? At the end of the day, that fear is our responsibility. We created that fear. We created that parallax by ignoring the fear that we had and not embracing it and trying to put on a brave face and pretend that there was not some shit going on in this world that people should be afraid of. Like when you're a child and you're told not to be afraid of what this world you're seeing around us, you're like, this shit's scary. I mean, really scary when you think about what you hear. I heard all kinds of crazy shit growing up, and I know you did too. And we see all kinds of crazy shit going on in the movies and through the media and through stories. And it creates a shadow of fear because we're supposed to never be afraid of anything. And so then we're in denial of just a part of ourselves, not our totality. But we're in denial of a part of ourselves, so we keep pushing it out, keep pushing that energy away from us, and then that energy starts gathering itself in these ethers, in the morphogenetic field, in the conscious water codes and the constructs around us, and it starts creating and becoming its own fear-based being that just keeps pushing stronger and stronger. Because when we live in denial of something about it, it becomes stronger. When we embrace it, though, it becomes nothing because we see it for what it is. Just like in the movie. He said, I'm going to embrace my fear. And when he embraced his fear, he embraced who he really was. That was self-acceptance. He was no longer living in self-denial. And that opened up the other part of himself that he was in denial of, that he wasn't accepting about himself, was that he was gifted with a high level of power. He was gifted with a high level of protection. He was gifted with this energy from the universe that could help his community and help his people. And once he accepted his fear, he accepted all the rest of it with him. So all this new age stuff that's like, oh, I got to deny my poverty. I'm going to live in denial of my poverty. I'm going to live in denial of my poverty, just like the fear. I'm going to live in denial of my poverty. That poverty starts creating a construct, a denial construct that just keeps getting stronger and pushing. No, I'm going to embrace my poverty, but by embracing my poverty, by embracing that, I'm also embracing, that's not my natural state. My natural state is wealth, and my natural state is wealthy. See how that works? Because that's embracing the natural being of ourselves. That's embracing who we really are. Don't live in denial of those things. If you feel afraid right now, embrace your fear and watch what happens as your willpower becomes empowered and the solutions start presenting themselves. You learn faster, you think faster when you accept yourself where you are. I'm not saying that we don't all need an improvement on something, but just accept ourselves for where we are. Accept that you're somebody in need of improvement. Don't live in denial of who you really are and say, oh, I need to improve myself so I can be accepted. No, accept yourself now. And when you start accepting yourself, others will accept you too. It just happens. And those who don't accept you, who cares? You leave this world alone. You know? When we leave this world, we are with ourselves at that moment. And that's all we got. And the opinions and all that of other people, they don't matter. And they never did matter. Let's read our definitions real quick of self and acceptance, just to give us something to, we've already been working with it. And I really think that, when we talk about self and acceptance, I'll put the definition of self up here. But check this out, because there's a few things that really go on that are interesting here. And once again, this is from the third edition of the American Heritage Dictionary. Self, definition number 1, the total, essential, or particular being of a person, the individual. The total, essential, or particular being of a person, the individual. Definition number 2 of self, the essential qualities distinguishing one person from another, individuality. That's that wild style. That's that original hip hop was based on individuality. And individuality, that comes from self-acceptance. Then that's the essential, our essence, the essential qualities, that things that have a quality to them. Distinguishing one person from another. They're trying to get everybody to think the same. The New World government right now that's on the earth right now wants everybody to think the same. And you see that if you turn on the news. They want everyone to think the same. And if anybody has an opposing view from the mainstream media right now, they're considered pariahs and outcasts because they want everyone to think the same. But that goes against the very nature of who we are. That goes against, hip-hop itself. That goes against our very self. The essential qualities distinguishing one person from another, individuality. Self, definition number 3. Check this one out, because this is the one. One's consciousness of one's own being or identity. Now, they mistakenly call that the ego right here. The ego is the intellect. The intellect is the child of the mind. Okay? The ego is just like the child of the mind. I don't beat up on the ego like I don't beat up on a child. That's just the way it is. But this is profound right here. One's consciousness of one's own being or identity. When we talk about self-awareness, are you conscious of your own being or identity and accept you where you are right now and right here? This one's very interesting too. Self, one's own interest, welfare, or advantage, thinking of self alone. But look at that, one's own interest, that's part of yourself, what you are interested in, that's part of yourself. Your welfare is part of yourself. And any advantages you may have in life, that is also part of yourself. Then check this out. Number 5, immunology. That which the immune system identifies as belonging to the body. So what the immune system identifies as belonging to the body is the self. And the immune system identifies as belonging to the body. So dis-ease, the immune system says this doesn't belong to the body. This disease is not part of self. Therefore, when we accept ourselves, we empower ourselves and we empower our immune system. This gets into myself, yourself, himself, or herself, of the same character throughout, of the same material as the article with which it is used. Self, oneself. Automatically. So these are things that happen automatically and happen within ourselves. And I'll put this down for a second and give you an acronym here too. This is one of the greatest acronyms from the acronologist G. Simone. Self, source, energy, life, force. Self, source, energy, life, force. That's our consciousness. That's our being. That's our awareness. That's who we are. That's our spirit. That's our soul. Our self, our source, energy, life force. That's our self. Self-acceptance is source, energy, life force acceptance. It's like that ring I was just talking about in the Green Lantern, right? It's like, and then the whole light body comes on. The whole rainbow body comes on, and the light being is born, and then all of a sudden the superpowers come. And what are those superpowers? Well, they vary. They vary for the individual. These are our gifts, our superpowers. Some people have the superpower of spiritual insight. Some have the superpower of looking at materials and being able to build a house out of them. Some people have the superpowers of looking at the earth and being able to move it around and grow food from it. Some people have the superpowers to pick up a microphone and rock an audience and send them all home feeling good that night. Some have the superpowers of healing, laying hands and miracle healings and energetic healings and distance healing. This is the future, epigenetics, Shout out to my man, Dr. Bruce Lipton. That's the future. Not this archaic world that we're living in right now. Not this, this medical tyranny of the pharmaceutical industry, these liars, these thieves, these cheats. Their day is over, their day is done. Source energy, life force, our day has come. Allow that source energy, life force to move through us and to be us and be who we are and embrace who we really are, which is we are source energy, life force. And what does acceptance mean? What does it mean to accept? Put it up on the screen right here. Accept, to receive something offered, especially with gladness. So self-acceptance is to receive yourself, especially with gladness. Accept, definition number 2, to admit to a group or an organization or a place. So like the great spiritual brotherhood, the great, human brotherhood, the true humanity. That's self-acceptance. Because once we accept ourselves, we're admitted into that group, that organization, that place. Hip-hopia is a place. When we accept ourselves as hip-hopas, when we accept ourselves as hip-hop itself, we are accepted into that place called hip-hopia. Definition 3a, to regard as proper, usual, or right. So self-acceptance is to realize that you are proper, you are usual, and you are right. Accept definition number 3b, to regard as true, to believe in. So you regard yourself as true and you believe in yourself. Definition 3c, to understand as having a specific meaning. Do you not have a specific meaning as yourself? Yes, your life has meaning. Your purpose has meaning. You have a specific meaning with self-acceptance. Accept definition number 4, to endure residently or patiently. To endure residently or patiently. Wow, self-acceptance is to endure with patience, to accept one's fate, to accept oneself for who they are, to endure. Endurance, that is such a spiritual power of endurance. And in this path of self-acceptance, you're going to have to endure the world telling you you are not who you say you are, until they eventually tell you, yes, you are who you say you are. Well done. Accept definition 5a, to answer affirmatively. Yes, I accept. I will accept. Definition 5b, to agree to take a duty or responsibility. Well, self-acceptance, that is a duty or a responsibility. It's both. It's both a duty and a responsibility is self-acceptance. Because once we accept ourselves, we have a responsibility to ourselves, to our God, to our community, to truth, to love, to our family, to our children especially. We have a duty and a responsibility when we accept ourselves. Accept definition number 6, to be able to hold something. Yes, can you hold on to yourself? Can you hold who you are? Can you accept who you are and hold on to that? Definition number 7 of accept, to receive officially. Can you receive yourself? Can you officially receive yourself through self-acceptance? Can you officially receive your purpose through self-acceptance? Yes, you can. Yes, I will. Accept definition number 8, to consent to pay as by a signed agreement, to receive something, especially with favor. Do you consent to receive yourself as yourself? Word. We'll jump down here to acceptance, the act or process of accepting. The state of being accepted or acceptable. Favorable reception, approval. You approve of yourself when you accept yourself. Belief in something, agreement. Yes, you believe in yourself. You're in agreement with yourself. A formal identification by a debtor of willingness to pay a time draft or bill exchange. A written instrument so accepted. Compliance by one party with the terms and condition of another's offer so that a contract becomes legally binding between them. That's all. That's some law type stuff there at acceptance. But the state of being accepted or acceptable, favorable reception, approval, belief in something, agreement, to accept. Wow. Go back and rewind that. Go over that definition because there was so much there. But what it all boils down to with self-acceptance is you just agree to be who you say that you are. You just agree that the person inside, and we're going to read from the inner city tonight in the Gospel of Hip Hop. The inner city, the inner man, the inner woman. We love and accept ourselves where we are and who we are right now. Not that we're not going to change. Not that there are not things that we need to change about ourselves or outgrow or mature from, which is actually the change that we're looking for is maturity, which is our responsibility. But we can't hate ourselves. We can't fear ourselves. We can't hate and fear our true nature. The colonizers convinced us, the New World Order has convinced people to hate and fear who they really are in favor of trying to be the lie that they are perpetrating. You don't have to be the lie. You can be your own organic, natural self. I was thinking about this, and this is no disrespect to anybody because I get it. You know, I keep seeing all this divine masculine and divine feminine, you know. Women need to step into their divine feminine, and the divine masculine needs to rise up. And man, you talk about a lack of self-acceptance, I was thinking about that, man, you start throwing words like divinity around and divine around. How does that make somebody feel who's struggling in their lives? You mean I got to go from here to divinity? I got to be Jesus or Buddha? I'm struggling to pay my bills, and I don't even know what I want to do with my purpose in life. And so to get a good woman, I got to be a divine masculine male. I got to become divine. No, because when you accept yourself, you accept that it's all divine, it's all truth, it's all God, okay? Even the folly. So whatever their version of divine feminine or divine masculine is, no, I got a better word for that. I'm going to say it's a better word. And I understand where people are coming from with the divine feminine masculine. So I'm not dissing nobody. I'm not dissing none of my friends out there who talk about this stuff. But can we just get to organic masculinity? What it means to be just organically masculine, what the natural God created us, what the Creator created actual masculinity to be, and be organic masculine. And what about feminine too? Can we just accept what organic femininity is and allow organic femininity to be organic femininity and organic masculinity to be organic masculinity and just let it be that? Would that have to be, all this other stuff that's attached to a word as powerful as divine? Because I'll tell the women out there saying, the divine masculine needs to rise up. No, the divine masculine got hung on a cross, right? And we should all pick up our cross and bear it. We should all strive and accept our divinity as we are and accept our divine nature. I'm doing it right now. But you're going to put that weight on men and women that you got to be divine masculine and divine feminine. To me, that just reeks of colonized spirituality. And I'm sorry to say that if it hurts anybody's feelings, that's not my intention here. But we're all adults here. I think we can understand where the heart is and what's actually being said here. Self-acceptance, I'm just going to accept my organic natural male. I'm just going to accept my organic natural masculinity. I'm going to accept it for what it is. I'm going to accept my divine natural spirit of who I am and what I'm all about as a man. I'm going to love and accept myself where I am. And see, this gets back into that community we were talking about earlier. Men don't get to really rise up to their divine masculine, their organic masculine, because how often do men get to commune and do things with other men that men like to do? Sport, build, run, tackle, Not that women don't like to do those things too. But how often does the divine feminine get to rise up into its organic femininity and do what it likes to do with one another? Women get to hang out with other women who aren't trying to backstab them and cheat and diss them, Women get to be women and men get to be men in their natural state, in their natural community. And yes, they mix together just well and fine too, and then get to go off and do what men like to do, and women can do what women like to do. Or the feminine can do what the feminine likes to do, and the masculine can do what the masculine loves to do. And that creates the community. But because we've been stripped of our actual community, no wonder relationships aren't working, because we're not in a state of self-acceptance, we're in a state of self-denial. Rise up, my nobility. Rise up into our organic nature, the way God created us to be. Probably should read the definition of organic. I don't have the dictionary. It's in the other room. I don't want to go get it, but should really get into what the definition of organic means. Maybe organic intelligence will be a name for one of these message from the ministers. My heart this week was so empowered by that, as this message was coming together, just to stumble across a cheesy movie from a few years back that got panned by the critics. And then I just something was drawing me towards it. So I follow where I'm drawn towards it. I'm watching it. I'm like, what, this is a great message for the message from the minister this week. Our willpower. Our willpower is what brings hip hop into existence. Our willpower is how we're going to build Hiphopia. Our willpower is what is able to resist the devil or defeat the devil that's trying to come at us with all of their tyranny. Remember this, before we get to the gospel of hip hop reading tonight, remember this: the devil is a liar, the devil is weak. Like Prince said in the Rainbow Children album, he was talking to the devil. He's like, you want a war, but you can't fight. See, the devil's got to convince us to police one another. The devil's got to convince us to oppress one another. The devil's got to convince us to hurt ourselves. That's what the devil does. Because the devil can't fight. The devil's a coward. The beast in the book of Revelations is a coward. A coward. Read the Revelations with that in mind, that the beast is a coward. Too many people interpret that and they read it like, oh, it's the beast, and oh, the beast, and oh, the beast, this, and oh, the Antichrist, oh. That's cowardly. That's not what Jesus taught, and that's not what the Christ taught, and that's not what the original intention of the author who wrote. John the Revelator's intention was not to make people afraid, it was to empower people. People read the book of Revelations and forget that this entire new kingdom of heaven on earth is here already. They forget that part. And so they, because why? Because they're afraid, because they're trying to push the fear away from them. I don't want that fear, I'm afraid, no. Instead of embracing the fear, because when you embrace the fear, Christ comes in, God comes in, truth comes in, empowerment comes in, willpower comes in. The beast is a coward. They don't want to fight. The devil don't want to fight. The devil's a coward. And you got to know that's why they send everybody else to do their bidding for them. That's why they never make appearances or anything. That's why they make decisions with pens, and they make decisions and then they put it out on the broadcasting network. That's why, like when Facebook, they're cowards. Like Facebook is a cowardly entity. YouTube is a cowardly entity. Instagram, Twitter, cowards. Because they do things, they censor people, they censor freedom of speech, but it's not a person doing it to you one-on-one. It's this coward, nameless, faceless entity. And the only power they have is the power we give them. They are the liar. They are the deceiver. They are the illusion. We are the truth. You are the truth. Don't be deceived by the devil. Kick the devil's ass. Kick the devil's ass. And when the next devil comes along, say, see, I kicked that devil's ass, I'm about to kick yours now too. Oh shit, that devil's going to run from you. You watch what happens over the next 5 years as they keep pushing against freedom. Kwame Ture told us all that just because the masses of the unconscious people may be unconscious, it doesn't mean that they don't love freedom. Kwame Ture taught this. And he said that the masses of the unconscious people are quicker to rise up and fight for their freedom than the conscious people. And we're going to see that in the next 5 years. We're going to see a lot of humanity gathering together. It's not going to be on social media. It's not going to be on the television, because the revolution will not be televised. But the world is waking up to itself right now, to its natural state right now. And freedom Freedom always wins. God always wins. Because once the people rise up and fight back, the devil runs back and hides and tries to plan for another century or another millennia. And it has to be sneaky and deceptive. Be the truth. Be the light of the truth. And that fear will cower. You will defeat the fear every time through willpower. It's going to take, it takes self-sacrifice to do this as well, too. And what are you sacrificing? You sacrifice your comfort, you know? You sacrifice the comforts of hell. Sometimes hell is a very comfortable place. It's not a place you go to burn. It's a place that's very comfortable. It's a place of always overeating. It's a place of indulgence. Hell is a very comfortable place. Everybody, I want to live a comfortable life, you know, no matter what the cost. That's hell for a lot of people. So, you know, there is self-sacrifice. There is a sacrifice that's required here with self-acceptance and living the purpose and living a spiritual life. There is a sacrifice that's made. And it's comfort a lot of the times, but there's other sacrifices that are made. Because once you begin to accept yourself, others may not accept you and others may accept you. Those who used to not to accept you may start accepting you, and those who used to accept you may stop accepting you. So there will be relationships that has to be sacrificed on this path. You start younger, it's easier because you just grow into it naturally. You surround yourself with those people who help you naturally. If you have a copy of the Gospel of Hip Hop, we're going to be reading from the fifth overstanding, the inner city. You can open it up to page 291, paragraphs 53 through 62. Take courage in this overstanding and allow it to strengthen you. It is the truth. Those who walk in righteousness and in love speak with care. Fight against oppression and corruption, cannot be bought or tempted. Hear no gossip or schemes of evil, and seek not to cause conflict and war. Are blessed beyond blessings. They are guided, fed, clothed, taught, promoted, advertised, and protected by truly divine forces. This is why the world, now check this out, my nobility. Accept yourself. Accept why this world doesn't work for you. This is why right here. This is why the world doesn't work for you. This is why the world doesn't validate you and why you cannot seem to succeed in the conventional styles of living. You are simply not of the world. Your home is the inner city, and your frustrations come from you wanting the pleasures, securities, and validations of the world as a human being. Yet you are clearly a spirit being operating in habitual spiritual reality, but in the material world. The issue is that you must finally decide to make up your mind. You must actually make your mind. For it is you, the spirit, that creates, makes up your mind. And the mind then goes on to create the physical body and life circumstances. The question is, are you going to live and be moved by your inner city reality? Or are you going to live and be moved by your outer city environment? Which has more value to you? Which one brings you peace? At some point in your training, you must finally accept the spiritual life and its powers and cease trying to live two lives in two opposing realities, one spiritual mystical and the other material worldly. You should repeat to yourself, I am a resident of God's spiritual inner city. I prefer to walk with God in the realm of spirit. I have freely chosen God over the world, and I am content with my choice. Say all of this to yourself over and over again. I am content with my free choice. I am content with God's presence. Spiritual awareness is more important to me than the temporary sensations of the world. At some point in your training, you will be surrounded by fearful, desperate, doubtful people, most of which will be your closest associates, even members of your own family. But do not be depressed by this. They are there to help build your strength. Humble yourself and perform listening. This will be one of your greatest challenges. See that challenge right there? To humble yourself and perform listening. This is a great time to perform listening when you are on this path. When others doubt you, perform listening. Go back and study perform listening. That is the homework from this, is perform listening. Study perform listening. Because it's not just listening to what they say, it's listening to what your inner voice, your small inner voice, that still small inner voice is saying. It's what the voice of God is saying to you. Are you listening to the voice of God? That's the greatest time to perform listening. For when you are surrounded by the fears and doubts of others, it means that it is time for you to exercise the faith and principles that govern your life. Often it is your compassion that opens your heart to suffering people. However, you cannot become them because you are not them. Read that again. Often it is your compassion that opens your heart to suffering people. However, you cannot become them. You are not them. Perform listening, knowing that the fearful and the doubtful cannot do what you do, nor can they see what you see. They have not done the work to arrive at your level of spiritual skill. Perform patience. This goes out to the empaths out there as well. The empathy is going to want you to join in on the suffering of others. You can help, you can assist, but you can't join them in their suffering because you will suffer with them. You will become the suffering too. You can always help. And this is where the empaths, this is where the narcissist, when an empath comes across a narcissist in their life, this is the greatest lesson, because the empath is always going to want to join in on with the narcissist, and the narcissist is going to feed off of that empathic energy that the empath is giving to the narcissist. But that narcissist is always going to take and take and take and deplete the empath. And what a great lesson. Don't enable the narcissist. Break free from the narcissist. Break free from that, my empaths. Be the feeling, creative, loving, nurturing, empowering being that you are. But do it in a way that doesn't deplete you and hurt you. You don't have to join them in their struggle. Let them join you in your peace. Don't join them in their sickness. Let them join you in your health. This is empowerment. Don't join in their lie. Don't join in on their lie. They will eventually join you in your truth. If you stand your ground, stay firm, and use your willpower. In truth, your random acts of righteousness and love have led you toward the realm of heaven, which we call the inner city. Just don't doubt who you are. Don't give up on yourself. Don't abort the birth of the divine you. Remember, those who are born to comprehend the mysteries of God have no choice in their comprehension. God is in their blood. Even when they do not want to see, they see. Even when they do not want to hear, they hear. Even when they do not want to know, they know. Self-acceptance, my nobility. Even when you don't want to see, hear, or know, you see, you hear, and you know. Accept it for what it is. Others aren't going to see it, but you will see it. Stand firm in your conviction and know. Be still and know that God is God. That is self-acceptance. And you must be clear with this. You may be surrounded right now by people who are confident and sure of their fears and doubts, but you cannot make their fears and doubts your fears and doubts. Don't make other people's problems your problems. Always seek to help whenever and wherever you can. But as sure and confident as they are in their fears and doubts, you must be just as sure and confident in your faith and principles. I'm going to read that again because this is a profound truth. This is so important to understand right here and to live and be this. And you must be clear with this. You may be surrounded right now by people who are confident. Check this out. You are surrounded right now by people who are confident and sure of their fears and their doubts, but you cannot make their fears and doubts your fears and doubts. Don't make other people's problems your problems. Always seek to help wherever and whenever you can. But as sure and confident as they are in their fears and doubts, you must be just as sure and confident in your faith and principles. Others seem to live their life doing any unrighteous thing they desire, while those who are born for spiritual comprehension and leadership lack the skills for unrighteous living. Those who are born for righteousness will continually fail at unrighteousness. Read that again, because that's why you're failing at the world in its unrighteous ways. If you're trying to live in the world, but you're not of the world, you will continually fail, because the world is unrighteous and you are righteous. And those who are born for righteousness will continually fail at unrighteousness, while those who are born for unrighteousness will continually fail at righteousness. For the righteous have no choice but to be righteous, while the unrighteous limit their decisions to unrighteousness. You cannot try to be righteous. You either are or you are not. Likewise, those who are hip-hop really have no choice in their hip-hop identity. It is simply who they are. Therefore, let us accept ourselves, and in doing so, accept the powers that come with the acceptance of ourselves. Self-acceptance is the key to hip-hop. Self-acceptance is the key to life. Self-acceptance is the key to God. Self-acceptance is the key to truth. Self-acceptance is the key to the kingdom of God, to hip-hopia. You have the key. It's self-acceptance. We have this key. Rise up, my nobility, and accept who you are. Accept your so-called shortcomings. Accept your so-called mistakes. Accept your so-called flaws. Accept your so-called gifts. Accept your purpose. Accept who you are. Accept what you are. Accept why you are. The more of us as we do this, we will continue to open up the mystical inner city, the MIC, the mystical inner city. Those of us who choose to open up the mystical inner city and open up that reality and embrace that reality and become and accept that reality, the more it will become that reality for our community outside of ourselves. Our environment will then begin reflecting our inner selves. My outer environment reflects my inner person, my persona. My outer environment accepts who I am, and I accept myself as I am, and the outer environment begins to reflect that. You accept who you are, and your outer environment will begin to reflect your acceptance. Reflect, effect, accept. Accept, effect, reflect. So when we accept ourselves, we affect our environment, and ourselves are reflected in our environment. Accept, affect, reflect. When we accept it, we affect it, and we reflect it. That's the keys to the kingdom. That's the keys to the kingdom there. That's the key to heaven on earth. That's the key to hip-hopia. That's what's going to end the new world order when we accept ourselves as the true world order. God wins. God's already won. The victory is ours. Let's claim it and accept it. Let's just accept our victory now. We're going to have to speak the truth. We're going to have to live the truth. We may have to fight. Whatever it is, we will be empowered. And we will do it with efficiency and grace and ease. We are walking with the Creator of all that is. The New World Order, the colonizer, they are walking a lie. They are walking cowards. The devil is a liar, a cheat, and a coward. He cannot create in and of himself. He steals other ideas and makes them his own. We are organic, natural human beings. They are not. They are fallen. And we can forgive them. And we can forgive them. Because when we forgive them, the justice of God comes. Let us forgive the oppressor so the justice can come. And will let justice reign, as Martin Luther King speaks about justice reigning. Allow justice to reign. Let us get out of the way of God's justice through forgiveness. We might find that we are the instrument of God's justice in that way through our word and through our actions. Let us bring healing to a people that needs healing. We've been manipulated, mind-controlled, terrorized by a system of liars and cheats. They wanted us to forget who we are, and God reminded us who we are through hip-hop. Now that we know who we are, let's teach one another about who we are. Let's be the living examples in our lives of what it means to be a hip-hopper. Self-acceptance. Let's be an example of what it means to be a person who accepts themselves. Because when you accept yourself, you give others permission to accept themselves. And that's the amazing alchemy that goes on, and that's the amazing alchemy that actually happens. You become the healer in your environment just by being. We become that. We are in our environment reverberating healing and self-acceptance. Others will do the same in their environment. We secretly give them permission to be who they say they are. Wherever we go, whatever we do, be the voice of God in your environment. And it doesn't always come from speaking. The vibration, the frequency, the consciousness, that is who we are. Organic men, organic women. Peace and so much love to you, my nobility. Peace and so much love to every hip-hopper out there. I see you, I know you, I'm with you. We walk together through this. We are consciously one. We are already living in hip-hopia right now. Rise up, my nobility. Now is the time, and we are the people. And there it is. Hip!